Hey, my name's Dorsie. How are you doing this morning? Is it that good here? Some of you look like you're dragging a little bit. You dragging a little bit? Been a rough week so far? Or is it a better week coming? Which one is it? Or could it be both? It could be both at the same time. Hey, I'm the pastor over at Sylvania First Methodist Church in, guess what? Sylvania, Georgia. And I want to talk to you. Everybody has a time in your life where you're tested. Okay? And testing happens for various reasons. Now, some testings are on paper. Some testings are something you have to do. Some testings are something you have to remember. For instance, if you go to a classroom and you take a class and you listen to what all they're talking about in the class, and later on the teacher may say or ask you questions to see if you've understood the material. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about? Okay? Now, some of you are like me, that we were very good, some of you are very good at memorizing very quickly certain things, but 3 days later you forget it. Okay? So for instance, how many of you ever, when you were in school, doesn't matter, small, elementary, whatever, that you could memorize something the night before or get it in your head the night before, but that doesn't mean you understand it? Does anybody ever do that before? It's like, I'd wait till the last minute and study. You understand? And I'd study late at night. I was that student that in school, I would have my notes right here. I had this mental belief that it's not necessarily true, that the last thing I see on my paper that I'm looking at before they give me the test will be on the test. So I'm like, they'll say, put your notes away. Put your notes under the desk. Put your notes there. I'm like looking, because one of these things is going to be there, and I'll put it right there. Now, I'll be honest with you, there was sometimes I put it in a position where I could scratch my head and look down there and see. Anybody else ever do that before? Anybody ever write them on your hands before? No, nobody did stuff. Anybody remember what a calculator was? Anybody ever write something on a calculator before so you could see it, so you're acting like you're using a calculator, and right there's the answers right there, you know. There's some tests that are like that. And then there's other tests that you don't really prepare for. Like, for instance, you're going to go, there's a test that you administer here most every day to someone. It's a test you sort of can prepare for. You just go in there and pee in a jar, pee in a cup. It's a test, right? There's things you do to prepare for it, but it's not like, how many of y'all study for that the night before? Do you really study for a pee test to see if you're clean? It's not really something you study for. It's just something you do, right? You know, they check your prostate. I ain't going to tell you how they do it these days, but it has to do with a finger in your butt, and they try to feel something. I ain't figured out how they do it, because that ain't nowhere near where I think they... Do you study for that? There's no way to study for that. You just can't do it. So there's different kinds of tests. There's also different kinds of tests that God or Jesus has for you. And today we're going to see two people who have, one is the one being tested, and the other may know the answer. So we're going to read from John, and you got your scriptures right there, and I give you that so y'all can take it and use it during the day. Now, use your own Bibles. That's great, but I just brought this in case some of you didn't have this. You can fold it up in your pocket and put it in your pocket and use it later on the day. All it is some scriptures, and if you got the backside, you can write notes if you got that. But let me read this to you. This has come from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. Now, this story happens after Jesus has done some healing. Now, this is in about the end of the year 1, beginning. It's around it's not the last year of Jesus' ministry with his disciples, but it's definitely after a whole year of some of them being with him. Okay? It says, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. That is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they had saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside, and he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up, he saw a great crowd coming toward him. And he said to one of the 12, and that's me adding that in there, he said to one of the 12, though he knew all 12 could hear, he said to the one of the 12, and he calls him by name, he says to Phillip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Now Philip answered him, it would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have one bite. Another of his disciples, Andrew, that's Simon Peter's brother, he spoke up. Here is a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes. But how far will they go among so many? Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Pretty big crowd. Jesus then took the loaves and gave thanks, and he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. And after the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world. Now this story is interesting to me because of this phrase that he says here. He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Now, with me saying that to you and what you just heard, what does Jesus have in mind that he's going to do? Holler out so we can finish up on time.
He's going to feed the 5,000.
So Jesus is going to feed the 5,000, right? Why did the 5,000 need to be fed? Too far to go to get food. So I'm going to ask the question. We'll keep asking questions. We got to get to the core. Why do they need something to eat? Well, what? Because they're hungry. So what's the problem? Supply and demand. So what's the problem? What'd you say? Yeah, what's the problem? Jesus already has in mind what he's going to do. He's going to solve the problem. What's the problem? Is it how many people they are? No. What's the problem? People are hungry. This is not tough stuff. Is that the core problem? People are hungry. And where did they come? Come to see him. Now, if you're hungry over there, that's hungry over there. But when you come to Jesus and you're hungry, then that's the problem. What's Jesus going to do? He's going to take care of the problem. Now, you all say he's going to feed them. Because when you're hungry, you already jump to the solution. Because you do this every day. When you're hungry, what are you looking for? Something to, help me out, something to eat. Correct? When you're hungry, there's a problem. The solution is looking for something to eat. Keep this in mind when you're looking at this passage. Why did the people come? Why were 5,000 people showing up? To get fed. Now, one was they're hungry in their stomach, The other is they're hungry in their heart, they're hungry in their soul, they're hungry, they're wanting something. They didn't come there just to come. They came there with a purpose. They came there with a need. Why do you go to a particular place if you have a need? I'm looking for the answer. I'm looking for the solution. Now this whole thing comes around and Jesus looks at Philip and he's asking Philip a question. He says, asks him this question and he already knows what he's going to do. So if he knows what he's going to do, why the heck are you asking Philip the question you're asking him? Does anybody know? To test him. Now, why do you test someone? Say it again. See how reliable they are. So I talked to you about this in years past or over times past. When you do a bench press, correct? How do you know what your maximum amount is, which is short term as that is called your max, when you bench press? Say it again. You keep putting more weight on it until when? You can't do any more. And when you find the point that you can't do any more, you back up 1 pound from that and you know that's my max. Does that make sense? If I can do 250 one time and I put 255 on and I can't do 255, what's my max? 255 or 250? 250. How do you describe it to people? What's your max? 250. This is the most I can do. You don't go around and saying, I fail at 255. I fail at 260. I fail at 280. I fail. You tell people what you can do. Is that true or false? Right? Then why do we go around so many times telling people where we're failing? Why do we focus so much on our failures? Because they hurt. Because we've got a need. We got a need for our failures. Now, Jesus is with these disciples. I told you they'd been following for about a year and a half. You know what that means? They've ate together, they've walked together, they've had to find water together, they've had to find food together, they've seen miracles together, they've had conversations. You know the conversations I'm talking about. The conversations that guys talk about. They're walking or whatever, and I'm sure they're walking around just talking about this. They're talking about how to build something, how to grow something, whatever's going on they're talking about. There goes a good-looking woman, and they talk about, man, isn't she good-looking? And one of them's going, hey, man, Peter, aren't you married? Why are you looking at her? They're probably just having all kinds of just regular conversations, things that's not written about in the Bible. But they're talking about this. They're hanging out with each other. They're developing a relationship. And when you develop a relationship, you know what happens? Something mysteriously happens. You begin to learn about the other person. True or false? How many of y'all have been here for more than 5 weeks? Let me see a show of hand. How many of you know in 5 weeks a few people who snore? Now, how did you know that? Experience. Your time with them. Your relationship. You got what I'm saying? How many of you know ones who have a bad attitude? How many know who fake it? How many know who's the posers? And now the longer you go, you'll learn more details about why that happens. But what you're going to see is what you know based on the relationship. Are you okay with that statement? Now, Jesus says, when Jesus went out and sat down with his disciples, he sat down with his disciples. Who shows up? The crowd. But who did he go there to talk to? Come on. Who did he take up on the mountainside? His disciples. The conversation is with his disciples. The crowd's coming for a different reason, but they're beginning to be his teaching tool. They're the tool he's going to use to teach and test the other ones. When he looked up, he saw the great crowd. So I'm with my disciples. I'm ready to do some teaching. We've been hanging out together. This is our norm. And he says, he sees this great crowd coming. And then it says, he said to Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? And he asked this only to test him. Now let me tell you what kind of test this is. This isn't a text about to see, okay, Peter, name the first 5 books of the Bible. Okay, Peter, I need you to memorize. We've been memorizing and talking about John 3:16. Can you repeat that? It's not about, Peter, do you know where the closest grocery store, not Peter, Philip, do you know where the closest grocery store is? But we do know that Philip's from that area. So he probably does know where the closest grocery store is. And so this test is about Philip. So this isn't a test of what you know or whatever. This is a test about, dude, you've been hanging around me for a year. Let's see what you got out of this. This is a test. It's like a doctor's test. I've told you all year long what you need to be eating and drinking and doing. Let's check you out to see how you're doing. Going to do some blood work. Going to check out and see what's going on. Want to see how everything's going. You know, I have a test. There's a test they do. How many of you ever had a physical before? Right? Show your hand. Somebody had a physical. Have you ever had that test when they do the physical and they have you cross your leg and he gets this little rubber hammer with a triangle on the end of it, and that son of a gun will take that thing and hit you somewhere right there, and your leg will jerk like that. Anybody ever had that happen? And I can tell you, when I was young, and I went from one of those first physicals when you go to play football in high school or middle school, and I go through that physical, and that sucker did that. That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen before. So I would go home, and I'd be sitting around, and I'd take something, be hitting my knee, and I'm going, my gosh, every time you hit this thing, this happens. You know what that is? Every time I do this, my body has a natural reaction. If my body doesn't react when I hit that nerve, it signals something else is wrong. That's the test he's doing here. I want to check your reaction. 5,000 men are coming to you right now. They're coming and they're hungry. You know how much money we got in the money bank. You know how much money we have together. You see it out there. You see it coming. You know what we got. You've been hanging out with me a year. Let's check your reaction. So he pops him on the knee. But it wasn't a pop on the knee. It was, let's check to see where you are with me. Hey, Philip, see all these guys coming? Where should we buy bread for them? He didn't ask, where do we get them something to drink? He didn't ask where we get them some meat. He didn't ask where we can send them to get food. He's like, who is we? Him and disciple. He didn't say, where can you buy food for them? We implies us together. Where can we get food? And Philip, you know who I am. Or at least you've been hanging out around me a year, and you act like you know who I am. So where can we buy them food? Philip's response: it would take more than a year and a half's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. Now, what did you just learn about Philip? What? Shadow, that's on here. Doesn't trust him? What is Philip focused on? Money. The question he said is, where do we buy enough? Where do we buy enough bread to feed who? To feed for these people to eat. Yeah. So when he says buy, your first assumption is money. So he hears the word buy, or does he hear the word bread? He hears the word buy and he hears the word bread, but does he put together they're hungry, they need to be fed? Or does he focus on the money? Or does he focus on what we don't have more than what we do have? When he hits his knee, what's his reaction? His reaction isn't what Jesus, who he's been hanging around, reaction would be. They're coming here, there's a need, that's our responsibility, we got to do it. His response is, look at what we don't have. Look at what we don't have. And what he's really saying is, look at what I don't have. Not what we don't have. Because see, what his failure was, what he doesn't have affected what we have. Because we know what God can do through Jesus. I believe it says in the scriptures, can do all things. But see, he don't consider himself that. See, many of you in this room are looking at your limitations of what you lack and keep thinking you're still on your own. And do not accept what you've been hanging around with in this place of other godly men, godly brothers, who are trying and struggling and trying and struggling, and sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't, to be godly men in this world, to be an example, to help one another. But you keep hearing, what do I have? And you look at your limitations. So how do you think he did on the reflex test? His leg didn't kick the way that Jesus would have hoped that it would have kicked. Just a natural response. You get what I'm saying? You can't, now listen, I'm telling you, you can fake it and go, and he never hit it. Do you understand what? That's not a reaction. That's you manipulating the system. And there's a lot of, in this room, you've been manipulating the system. When they say, what's your reaction? You go, whoop, whoop, and you act like you got it. But when it comes down to when Jesus just catches you off guard and hits it, you don't move. So you can't fake this. And the only thing that it show it is how it showed it with Phillip, is a test by the master. So Phillip saw their scarcity. So now, I don't recall reading here, sorry, I need to stay behind the mic. I don't recall reading here where Jesus said, you failed my class, get out of here. I only want A students. You've been wasting my time for over a year, and you've been hanging around me, and you can't react any better than this. You're out of here. Off the team. You're benched. Doesn't say that, does it? Didn't kick him off the team. This was your max. I know what your max is now. Now I know what we need to work on to improve your max. Is everybody cool with that? But then old Andrew chimes in. Andrew and John were two that followed John the Baptist and left John the Baptist because they were looking for the Messiah. And when he says, here he is in Jesus, they started following them. Now, each of them had their own brother, and at some point in time in this journey, they left Jesus for a moment, run home, and one, John, went and got his brother James, and Andrew went and got his brother Peter. Now, 4 of them followed Jesus. But when you hear it talked about in the scriptures, and in the order of what they announce who the disciples are, it's Peter, James, John, then Andrew. Andrew dropped from being one of the first 2, and he dropped out of the top 3. He didn't make the Olympic platform of gold, silver, or bronze. He's number 4, just one off. But this son of a gun gets it. Listen to what he says. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many? What's different between Andrew's and Philip's responses?
He at least offered a solution. He
So what was driving,
That's not what they do have.
what was Andrew, how was he looking at the problem? Was he looking at the money or was he looking at the need? They're hungry. We don't have money. Did he quit? Here's what we do have. Now, by the way, I just want to say this. Whose fish is it? And whose loaves is it? It's a little boy. It's not even Andrew's. Andrew's sitting there going, Andrew is being MacGyver. Did you ever see that show, MacGyver? Man, I need a knife or I need something. I need to hook this up. And he just looks around and says, well, what do we have? I know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get into this room. I don't have the key. Let me find a paper clip. Let me find this. Let me find something. I'll take the hinges off the door. He MacGyvers it. I love that phrase. He MacGyvers it. He sees the problem, knows his limitations, but doesn't let his limitations stop him from solving the problem. He gets creative. His creativeness is driven by seeing the problem, understanding I have to figure out how to do it. Right? And so he not only looks at what he has, he looks at everything. So in other words, everything is an option to Andrew to meet these needs. I'll do anything because I know that need is greater. And when he does this, he comes, like many of us here does, he comes and he says, in my mind, I don't know what I can do with this. I don't think I can do anything with this. When my mind is logically going, how far can 5 pieces of bread and 2 fish go? My mind logically can't make this solve the problem unless I put it in your hands. And even that, he has doubts. You can hear his doubts. He says, it would take, here's a boy 5 loaves, but here's his doubts. How far will it go among so many? He's like, we might be able to feed 1 or 2. We might be able to feed 5 or 6. We might be able to give a couple of it. There's 5,000. We might be able to take care of 2 or 3. Us 12, by the way, will go hungry. This boy's going to go hungry. But we might meet the needs of 2 or 3. And Jesus says, give it to me. When are you going to start giving him what little bit you got? When are you going to stop being Phillip and emphasizing what you don't have and start looking at what you do have? That has failed you under your power and control, but given to God Almighty through Jesus Christ can not only feed you, but will feed 5,000 other men. And then have 12 basketfuls left over. 12 is an interesting number. People ask why 12. How many tribes of Israel were they? In other words, there's enough for everyone right here and enough to feed the rest of the world. And notice it says nothing. John's writing this. John is the one disciple. Of all the disciples, he speaks more about relationships. I'm the beloved. I sit close to Jesus. It's relationships. And John shows us this. That when we give, there's no fish left over. Did you notice that? There's 12 basketfuls in John's writing of bread. Why bread? Somebody help me out. Why bread? Who's the bread of life? Jesus, the bread of life. Why does bread of life mean something when Jesus says, I'm the bread of life? Because it feeds your spirits. But why would he use that reference point? What? Who said that? Manna. Why manna? What? So has anybody ever heard the word manna before? Do you know when manna showed up? When the Israelites had been captive for 400 years. And they come out of captivity, like many of you have come out of captivity. From the demons and the things that have held you in check, have held you in place. And you've come out of that, and now you're out of Egypt, and you're trying to get Egypt out of you. And as you're trying to get Egypt out of you, as you're trying to get these tendencies out of you, you're out of the bars, you're out of the things, you're in a place of physically you're out of there, but it's still in you. You're trying to be refined. And God would say, sanctified. And now you're hungry. And now you have wants and needs. And so they were in that wilderness in the Exodus, and they were hungry. No bread in sight. They were in the wilderness. They were in a lonely area. Interesting that this is where Jesus is, on a hillside. Is that not what it says? He said, listen, have the people sit down. Listen to this phrase. There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. I just have a question for you. Why in the world would John write there's plenty of grass in that? Why would he write that phrase? There's plenty of grass. The grass is greener there. They're going to have a soft place to sit their butt. Why would he say there's plenty of grass? The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not. Who's the good shepherd? He's showing that Jesus is the shepherd in the middle of the wilderness, in the middle of nowhere. He will feed his sheep when you come to me. And when he ties it back to the Exodus story, and he says that bread that's called manna that came from heaven, manna from heaven, he said, I'm that bread. I'm the bread of life. And then he says, this is the word which is what we consume. This is the bread of life. This is what I'm living out before you as you walk around and as you see this. And when you get this, and I pop your knee again with a test, you ain't going to have to fake. And your reaction will be, give it to God. Give it to God. Give it to Jesus. I don't have much, but what I've got, I'm going to give to him. I might be living off of your faith right now. I might be living off your faith, but your faith may be enough to get me to the point that I take our faith, which you're a 10 and I'm a 0, or you're a 9 and I'm a 1, and we take that faith to him, and then he transforms it. And I'm changed. You're not here by accident. Do you know how many things? Oh, Lord. Do you know how many things had to be lined up to get you here in the universe? Do you know how many things had to be lined up to get you to pay attention for 25 minutes as I've talked? Do you know the things have been put in motion before you were born? Mike, Gerald, some of the others who've gone through their addictions that went through way before you, that's older than most of you, who were redeemed, had to be laid out before they could be here to lead you. And I'm freaking older than most of you, probably all of you, at 64 years old. And how in the world did I get over here in Garfield, Georgia, from North Carolina, from working in the textile industry, and now I'm standing before you as a pastor of the Word? When you give what you've got to the Lord, you change. So stop just hanging around the Lord to look good. If you're in this place and you're in this program, be in the program. Stop fighting it. Be in the program. If you're going to have to come to worship services, if you're going to have to come hear speakers, some of them are going to suck. Some of them are going to be great. It doesn't matter. You come and show up with what little you got, and you give it to him. And this world will be changed when you leave this place. People in this program will be changed because of your faith, because you don't know that there's not somebody here watching you, hoping, man, I'll go, Lord, I'll go. If I go, Lord, if they go, I'll follow. And they've been waiting on you for a while. So step up and be the men of God that you're called. Step up to stop looking at what you don't have and declaring that to the world. I'm lacking this, I'm lacking this, I'm lacking this. And start talking about, what if this, Lord? I'm not sure, I'm doubtful, I'm not sure. But what I'm doing is I'm not going to sit here and just bitch and moan and groan and complain like Phillip does at the time. I'm going to find something and I'm bringing it to you. And even my doubts, I'm bringing to you. What can you do with this? With even me? And he'll say, hey, give me what you got. Go over and sit down and watch and learn. Because the next time this happens, I'm expecting you to do this. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for this time and thank you for this grace and mercy you've extended to us. Thank you for how you move in mysterious ways. Thank you for how you take this word that we read in one section in a book of John and you can tie it all the way back to the Exodus story, all the way back to the Genesis story. You can tie it all the way to our future. Lord, keep working within us. Thank you for not kicking us off the team because we failed the first test. Thank you for not kicking us off of the group or kicking us out because we failed the second, third, or the 100th test. Because we're here now, Father. We're here now. What we've got, this is what we've got. Anyone in here could say, screw it, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. But they're staying. And as they're staying, they're working through how to offer you what they have. And there's some things, Father, they don't want to offer you. They want to hold on to them, and Lord bless them. But if that stuff they're holding on to is pain and hurt and the things that are hindering them from being who you called them to be, make it a weight on them they can't stand till they give it to you. Because not only will you take what our goods are that we have, you'll take our pains and you'll transform them. So hear your students. Hear your followers. Hear your future disciple makers in this world. We ask all this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. God bless you guys. Have a great day.